Hello and welcome to another wilderness tamed video, and in this one we're going to be turning this rusty old scythe blade into shiny scythe blade. Let me know in the comments below which of those you found the most humorous, and I'll edit the other ones out and we'll stick with that one. Best roll the credits. Behold, the Trojan horse of peening ponies. So we're going to be using these Garrison Garryflex blocks, which are rubber blocks impregnated with grit of various coarsenesses, because that's a thing. The red one being the coarsest, the blue being a medium, and the grey on the left there being a fine, similar to sandpaper. So here they are on the rusty blade, coarse, medium and fine. Now we're going to start off with the red one, the coarse one, just to give an illustration. So it's clearly designed for really rusty stuff. Careful how you position your fingers, not wrapped over the edges of the block for obvious reasons, but firmly held on the top. I'm not going to bother trying to get rid of the paint on the corner there, but we start right in the rib, in the fold at the back of the blade, and working gradually out towards the cutting edge. So you never come in from the cutting edge towards the back of the blade. Again, for obvious reasons. Shouldn't have to say it, but you know, people. And you just rub away and the stuff comes off as if by magic. So we're going to use the grey block just to polish up the back edge of the blade near the rib there, which actually isn't that rusted. Here it is in close-up. So as you see, the fingers on top of the block, not wrapped over it, and working from the back of the blade, from the rib towards the cutting edge. Then onto the blue. Further towards the cutting edge, it's a bit more rusty, so the blue coarser block will cope with that heavy rusting a bit better. And here I'm using the red block again, because it has quite a sort of pointed edge to it through wear and tear really, but it's very good at getting into that crease between the rib and the back of the blade where a lot of the resins can gather. So the other thing that we're getting rid of quite often on blades is the sort of starches and resins from the vegetation that you cut. They build up and form a sort of a gum on the blade. It generally darkens the blade and blackens it. So if you're not regularly cleaning your blades after mowing, it'll go darker and darker, blacker and blacker, and that will of course affect the cutting edge eventually as it builds up and thickens up. Plus it just looks uncared for. And once you've gone over the heavily rusted parts of the blade with the coarser grit blocks, you can then polish it up with the finer blocks. Again, just as you would with timber and sandpaper, you're working gradually towards a much more polished, refined look. The obvious way of avoiding having to do this, of course, is to maintain your blades on a regular basis. And as I say, after each time you mow, even just a damp cloth to take off the resins and the sort of sap from the vegetation that you've mown, as soon as you're finished, give it a clean down and dry it off before you put it away. I also like to allow my blades to dry off before I put the plastic blade guards on, because they will trap moisture in around the edge of the blade and start the rusting process there, which obviously you don't really want. So here I'm doing the back of the blade, or the bottom of the blade if you like, which generally doesn't get quite as bad, because when you think about it, it's rubbing across the ground all the time during the mowing process, so it's kind of getting polished anyway until you hit an anthill or a molehill and get it all covered in soil and grit and dirt. So yeah, the back of the blade generally doesn't get quite as bad, but still worth looking after nonetheless. So here's a speeded up part when I'm very rusty. Here's a speeded up section on a particularly rusty blade, just to show how bad they can get, but how effective the blocks are. I'm only going to do a small section of this blade because this is one that I do keep specifically in bad condition for training courses, just to illustrate how not to look after a blade. And just for giggles, because I've never tried it, I thought I'd see if this solution would clean up the blade. So the classic baking powder, as demonstrated here, covered over the blade, and then adding some distilled or white vinegar, which causes the baking powder to effervesce. And the two together have some cleaning properties. People use them sort of domestically in household situations to clean stuff up. So I thought, well, no harm in trying. So I put the vinegar into a British-made hose-lock bottle. This is not a sponsored ad, by the way. Spray that over and leave it. And here's some blades that I did in the meantime whilst that was sort of soaking. You can see how black they are. This is the resins that I was talking about, the starches from the vegetation, and they polish up quite nicely. Oh dear, that's in bad nick. Cured. Oh yeah, so this demonstrates how if you don't have the blade sort of laying flat on a surface, such as a workbench, which I clearly don't have, or in my case on your knee or your leg, and the danger is you're going to slip over the edge of the blade when you get to it, and your fingers will then be below the blade edge. So ideally get it well supported right on top of your leg and work that way. So if you do slip, your fingers aren't really, unless you drag them backwards, they're not really going to get cut by the blade. Once you get more proficient, and once you're totally mindful about what you're doing whilst you're sharpening and cleaning these blades, then you're a bit more in control, and little accidents are a lot less likely to happen. So like a lot of jobs, as I say, if you sort of neglect your scythe blades, the longer you leave it, the worse it's going to get, and then the harder the job becomes. So just to reiterate, regular cleaning kind of saves you all this hassle. As you can see, this is quite a time-consuming, laborious process, and I can think of better ways of spending my time. But having said that, it's really satisfying if you can, you're presented with a fairly shocking-looking blade and you can restore it. Then it's quite rewarding in that respect. Plus, you can earn a few bob from various people offering a cleaning service. Tip of the blade causes problems because of the crease in the rib at the edge of it there, at the back. Even peening can be a bit of an issue, but just polishing the tip. Now you might be asking yourself, why has that guy got such freakishly long nails on one hand, yet apparently normal length nails on the other hand? Well, I'll tell you. That's why. Well, I hope that clears that up for you. Sure, you were all dying to know. YouTube is full of videos of people doing gardening jobs, trimming and brush cutting and hedge cutting, all speeded up, very loud and noisy, but people seem to subscribe to those channels and sit through those videos, so I figured this one's probably a bit less painful. Oh, here's a good one. Do pay attention. So the plastic blade guards have a slightly higher edge on one side, at what I class as the back, and I always put that to the back of the blade. I mean, that's just me, you can put it the other way around if you want, but the way you replace these guards is fairly critical. The most likely task where you are liable to injure your fingers. So I guide it on thumb and forefinger, and again, it's just me, I always start at the heel end of the blade, use my left hand, thumb and forefinger to guide it on in place, follow along with the right hand, reaching over the blade and squeezing it in place just so it kind of pops into place. Never try and slide the blade guard on, which I've seen a few people attempt to do, or pop it on at one end and then run your finger along the blade to the other end. That doesn't work either, trust me, I know. All fingers unscathed and still attached. So in conclusion, clean tools make your life easier. Not much more I can add to that really. Yeah, look after stuff. It'll last longer, looks better, works better. Yeah, that's about it really. You still there? See you in the next one. I'll roll the credits now and save you any more misery.